So guys, there really is no better way to describe what's happening across the Russian hellscape other than a perfect storm, one which is sort of being inflicted upon it by the likes of Ukrainian armed forces, sanctions, and finally, just justice coming to the Russian hell state. As you can see, this is Feodosia down in Crimea. It's burning now into its third day. This is Russia's largest shipment terminal, largest storage terminal. They are storing gas, oil, diesel down there, shipping it in and out of this one main terminal. So cutting it off is cutting off the lifeblood of the Russian occupation authorities in Crimea. I'll read you what Stratcom wrote. Temporarily occupied Crimea is progressively being cut off from the tentacles of the Russian energy apparatus, now burning for the third day, a Feodosia oil storage and shipment facility on the Crimean coast. And it's not only the shipment and transportation apparatus of Russia's oil industry. This is Russia's Irkutsk region. I'll show you where that is in a minute. And first of all, it's a huge territory. It's a remote territory. And it's going to be a very, very cold territory very soon. As you can see, it's already pretty cold out there. And just wait until these Russians are having to wait in line for 15 hours to get gasoline. At the end of that line, they have no gasoline and the station's out of gas. So one of the few stations that has it in this particular area of the Irkutsk region today, Russian Telegram is just filled with people desperate looking for gas, willing to pay any price. And this situation has really spread to all but a few regions, and it's only getting worse and worse. This is Irkutsk. Irkutsk is way the heck out here. Ukraine's way over here. Ukraine, the big bully over here, is causing all these inconveniences for all these 140 million Russians. Yes, and they thought it would never happen, right? You thought you could start a genocidal war on your neighbor and everything would be fine, right? But guys, the really big story today is absolutely second to none. This is coming out of Iran, and what this means for Russia is equivalent to, a year of Ukrainian missiles and drones striking Russia's oil facilities. I'll read you what I wrote this morning. No one yet knows why, but for the first time in 7.5 years, Iranian-flagged ships have just turned on their AIS beacons all over the world. The oil market is taking it as a sign that Trump is about to cut a no-sanctions deal with Iran. Needless to say, oil price would be absolutely destroyed, sealing Putin's fate. You guys that were around the 1970s, you remember the OPEC oil embargo, you remember 1979 Islamic Revolution, you remember Jimmy Carter getting destroyed by Reagan in that 1980 election because of the hostages being held by the New Mullah regime there in Tehran, and everything that transpired in the economy because of the gasoline lines, all that. Iran used to be a major, major player. This is back when the United States wasn't producing as much oil, of course. We're putting out 13.5 million barrels a day. But really nothing has diminished their standing more on the global stage than these sanctions. And Russia has had a side gig for decades now, laundering sanctioned Iranian oil onto the market. Russia would lose that, of course, if all of a sudden Iranian oil were to flow freely to the likes of Australia or to Brazil or to any of these booming economies in Asia, even, in Mexico, United States. I mean, we're talking about, if this is in fact what we think it is, if you can find another reason why all of a sudden Iran would come clean today and let everybody know, look, here's what we're doing. I don't know. I can't come up with a better reason. Anyway, the oil market also happens to agree with me. As you can see, another horrendous day for the oil market. It's actually lower now. This is from 2 hours ago when I posted this. I'll read you what I wrote. Fresh lows for the thing on which Russia's entire portfolio of genocidal global ambitions relies. Putin is the oil market's expletive there. I don't know what we can say on YouTube. So that is not a bullish chart by any stretch of the imagination. And it's actually worse now. It's down to 60-something. And remember that Russian Urals oil trades at a $15 discount. So we're already at $45 right now. And further on the Russian oil market apocalypse, we have Russian oil exports drop a massive 17% in only 1 month's time, from August to September. I added some pitchforks there for effect. I know all these Russian troll farms are watching my accounts closely, and I like to let them know sometimes where the world is heading. Russian exports fell by 17% in August. Russia's exports in August amounted to 31.5 billion. Too much. This is a 17.1% decrease month on month. And one of the major constituents of these lost Russian oil exports is now India. India was forced to choose between a genocidal expletive stuck in the 12th century or the civilized world. Sadly, it took this long to decide. And this is India now finally choosing to do the right thing. Slowly, it eventually happened. They're still buying too much. But I'll read you here the headline. Indian state-owned refiners trimmed Russian oil imports by 45% between June and September. So this is India finally choosing to be on the right side. Just blow by blow, Russia is getting it. So who's going to pay for this war if it's not, the 35% of all Russian government revenue is tax revenue from the oil and gas industry. And that is now drying up. And thus we have headlines like this today. Out of the Moscow Times, Russian regions have begun planning tax increases to plug the budget gaps. Yes, who is going to pay for that war? Putin could probably sell one of those palaces and fund the war for a few days, but that is definitely not going to happen. Here, I'll read you what I wrote. The Russian slaves that aren't being torn to shreds in the fields of Ukraine will now have to pay for Putin's fantasies of global conquest in other ways, as Russia adds regional tax raises to the growing list of punishments. Yes, this is where it gets really interesting. I mean, imagine you're a Russian, you wake up, you've got no gas to get to work, tax bill comes due, taxes, if you had the money to pay the taxes, now the tax bills are going to be higher. Then you get your conscription notice, you've got to go off into a Ukrainian trench. That's really what we're looking at here. Things are getting more and more interesting. The Russian stock market, at least that's doing okay, right? That is not doing. It was 3,000 just a month ago. Now we're at, 25.90. This is several hours ago, though, so we may have already sold off. The past month of Russian stock market losses look bound for Middle Earth. Yes, things are only becoming worse and worse for the savage Russian hell state. And now, guys, I'm going to introduce you to a subculture that 99.9% of you know nothing about. And it is absolutely insane. In Russian-occupied Donetsk, Russian-occupied Lugansk, Crimea, like anywhere, they have social media influencers. But the social media influencers that they have in these particular regions in Russian-occupied Ukraine, they've sort of slipped off into this alternate dimension. They make their livings, as all influencers do, by going and promoting shopping markets, or like, say, a dollar store opens up, or a clothing brand, or maybe, some Russians decided to steal some houses and apartments and they need to sell them. So they put this guy in like a little red suit and they put him in front of some cameras and say, hey, look, go sell these bombed out buildings so we can get the cash for it. This is a post from our friend Victoria, who's always putting out great content. A blogger from Donetsk filmed Russian military trucks by a mall. AFU saw the footage and decided to offer super-fast demolition service. Yes, in the background of this blogger, he was promoting some store that it had opened on his Instagram, which is actually blocked in Russian-occupied Donetsk. And in the background was some military stuff. And Ukraine has 200 people that just spend 24 hours a day going through all of the footage from every form of Russian content that's coming out to find any clues of anything that's going on, anything that can be used for intel. And this was, anyway, it was a giant shopping center that the Russians had loaded all sorts of MLRS missile units and tanks, trucks, armored personnel carriers. But I want to get a little into the influencers because I think you're going to really enjoy this. Here's the same guy. Here he is in an apartment that was stolen by the Russians. And he is selling it. This is in Russian-occupied Mariupol. And he is trying to shill this apartment. So the people that lived in this apartment, they're probably dead or having fled. This is in a really bad area. This is in, I believe this was in Mariupol, which Russians killed about 120,000 people there and bulldozed the remains into buildings. There's mass graves outside the city. And so this guy dresses up in a little red suit, and he goes on Russian Telegram to try to sell these things from his Instagram, and then he gets a commission. And he'll walk through this apartment and tell you all about it. And translating it, it's actually a lot of humor, but I'm not in the mood to do that this time, you guys. I thought this was going to be a funny segment, but okay, maybe it will be on the next one. But he shows this horribly thrashed old apartment that's been gutted of everything of value. And he wants people to buy this. He wants someone in like Novosibirsk or in the far reaches of the Russian hellscape to purchase this apartment. So he puts it on his Instagram. Here's an entire movie theater that the Russians have stolen. And he goes and walks you through the movie theater and says, look, this great movie theater. And you can buy these things for like dirt cheap because you just buy it from some local gangsters. You know, there's no real law in Russian-occupied Ukraine other than there's a guy named Pushlin who runs his name's Pushlin. He runs the whole thing for Putin. And everything of value has been stolen long ago, and everything is just in ruins. Anything of value. If you have nice doors, they come and steal your doors. If you got a nice toilet, they'll steal your toilet. And he's talking about all the wonderful things you can do with this movie theater. This is in Russian-occupied Donetsk. And you can go and you can, if you buy this, you will, you can have all sorts of business opportunities. You build a business, but anything you build there, I have so many friends that had restaurants there in all areas of Russian-occupied Donetsk, Lugansk, Crimea. And the Russians just came and they just take those things. They come in with guns and that's it. They bring a notary and you have to sign over your business. That's what life is like when the Russians come. Any people that survive. Most people just flee. Yeah, and this is in Mariupol. This is a city that Russia committed some of its most brutal atrocities of the entire war in this city. I'll just let you watch it. You understand the concept, just watch for a second. And this is Mariupol, so it's highly likely that the people that used to live in this apartment are dead. And he's saying that these are beautiful chandeliers, they're not Chinese. And he talks about how the boiler is really good. And as you can see, there's nothing of value. The entire place has been looted. And, he says, oops, the garage has been bombed. And it's not even a big deal. There were probably people in there or something, you know, the Russians committed the worst atrocity of the war was Mariupol. It was nothing worse than what Russians did in Mariupol. They executed people in the streets. This is Russian culture, you understand. This is normal. And here's one. He shows that, look, if you buy this place, you even get a free hammer. And he shows the really cool hammer in this place. This is in this is in the center of Donetsk. You will get this hammer. And anyway, he gives a little tour, and it's absolutely insane. It's the whole concept, you guys. I know this audience is mainly American. I want you guys to understand what it means when we talk about, Ukraine surrendering. You know, when you surrender to Russians, this is what you're surrendering to. They come in and they murder all the people. They ship the kids off to the far reaches of Russia, re-education camps, all the worst things you can come up with in your deepest imagination. And this is what Russians are doing in Ukraine. And then they go online to sell your house on Instagram. This is real, you guys. I'm not making this up. Oh, and here he is, the same guy. Here's some comic relief for you. Just to show the guy will really do anything for money. He goes to try to sell, helps this local potato seller. They're probably stolen potatoes. It's probably a farm that they stole from Ukrainians, and now their local gangsters are selling the potatoes. And he's talking about how great the potatoes are. And it's 1,000%, it's from a stolen farm in Donetsk that the Russians took, and they're making just local gangsters running it. And they've got maybe some Ukrainian guy that they forced there, you know, that's afraid, and they're holding his family or something. I've heard every story you can imagine. It's all real stuff, you guys. I know it sounds like a movie. I don't know. I wouldn't believe this stuff if I was just sitting like in Montana or something right now. I had never been out here to see this. Here's another one of the bloggers that I'm talking about. Okay, this is Miss Donetsk. Well, she's, quote, the queen of Donetsk is her name. And they send her out to grocery stores and to push all sorts of products, from dollar stores to car dealerships. And this is normal, you guys. Now just watch. It's not a joke, you guys. This is serious. I'll let it play again because it's so insane. This is the, quote, queen of Donetsk. She says she can't help that her legs spread when she gets on these motorcycles. She's trying to help. She's sponsoring a motorcycle place. Yes, that's. I know you probably. I hope you guys have already had your lunch. I may have put you off food for the next week or so. I apologize for that, but the world needs to know that this is one of the things that Ukrainians are trying to keep out. This is the culture that Ukrainians are willing to die to keep out of the civilized world, and Europeans should be on their knees thanking brave Ukrainians for keeping these monsters out of the civilized world. It's real, guys. I wish it wasn't, but this is the Black Death. Let's skip over to the propaganda front. We've got, we've always got to cover Orban. The Russian-backed Orban regime of Hungary. They have looted Hungary into its position of now the poorest nation in the EU. So he's going big out against Ukraine now because he really has nothing else. He's doubling down on his support of Putin because he's got nothing else. He's dying in the polls right now to this guy named Peter Magyar, who's this young, handsome, charismatic guy that is absolutely destroying him in the polls. If Orban allows a free election in Hungary, what's going to happen is he's going to lose, and the incoming Peter Magyar administration is openly saying, you are going to prison, because he has looted everything. I mean, Orban owns zebras. I mean, he, like I said in another episode, it's like all these guys basically, Yanukovych, Orban, they all saw Scarface when they were young, and that image just stuck in their heads. They need lions and zebras. And, like every, Colombian dope dealer from the 1980s, that's the archetype. And they're living their fantasies by looting their countries. So what we have here is Hungary's Russian-backed Orban regime now resorts to atrocious fake AI productions in attempt to please the Kremlin master. And by that means he needs to go hard against Ukraine, and that's what he's been doing. Now presenting the Ukrainian president in a ridiculous video that implies Ukraine has taken over Hungary's smartphones with a fake spy app. Russia and the Orban regime hope to improve Orban's collapsing poll numbers by whipping the electorate into a paranoid anti-Ukrainian hysteria. And here's the AI video that he made. Oh, maybe it might be copyrighted or something. Yeah, that's Peter Magyar right there. So Orban's trying to tie Zelensky to Magyar in sort of some paranoid way to make the Hungarian electorate believe that Ukraine is the enemy, not only the enemy, but they're spying on everyone. They're in everyone's smartphone. So be careful what you do online, because the Ukrainians will get in there and take it over. And this is Viktor Orban's official Facebook account on which he posted this clip. He has an army of designers and propagandists now that surely are working with the Russian government to put out junk like this. And just to show you what Orban has done, Orban's Hungary is now officially the poorest nation in the EU. This is an article back from June. As of June, Hungary now ranks last among European Union member states in a vital measure of household welfare. Actual individual consumption, AIC, per capita, according to June 18, 2025 data from Eurostat. At just 72% of the EU average, Hungary trails all 26 other countries in terms of what families actually consume, including public services like healthcare and education. And then it goes into the contrast of other nations that haven't been drugged down by the Orban regime looting the country. And you have to understand that, just one of Orban's estates now has zebras, ostriches, and it's valued at around 500 million euros, right? He is just this beastly. I mean, his sons run around like Uday and Qusay Hussein in these, $2 million Bugattis. They have accumulated every luxury hotel, all the businesses, all the media. They control everything in Hungary now, which makes it even more questionable. Yesterday, Trump praises the Russian-backed Orban regime, the group that has single-handedly looted Hungary into its newly official position of poorest nation in the EU. And honestly, guys, I think we can get Trump back on our side on this when he realizes that Orban is actually a weak bestial kleptocrat that only exists because Putin allows him to exist. Anyway, it's Trump praising the Viktor Orban, which is something I think probably will come to an end fairly quickly, especially when he loses this election. And the last thing I wanted to cover, you guys, is second to last thing, Chechnya. Okay, so when talking about Russian peace treaties, first of all, Russian peace treaties are generally just a means with which to paralyze the opponent temporarily while Russia rearms and rebuilds to launch a stronger invasion. Case in point, for a better understanding of how peace treaties with Russia go, here's Russia in 1997 signing a treaty with Chechnya after Russia's failed invasion killed between 50,000 to 100,000 people there. 2 years later, they had rearmed. Russia discarded this treaty, again invaded, killing another 100,000, including all the Chechen leadership, as well as razing much of the country to the ground. This is the Russian peace that many discuss forcing onto Ukraine. And this is Boris Yeltsin. They lost this war. They tried to invade little Chechnya, and they couldn't do it. They lost. Russia lost, you guys. Okay? Russia's weaker, much weaker now than they were when they lost the war to Chechnya, by the way. This is Boris Yeltsin. Boris Yeltsin famously wandered around the White House grounds at 3 a.m, naked, ranting about how he wanted to order a pizza. It's real. That really happened under the Bill Clinton administration. That's a true story. Here's them signing the peace treaty. They waited 2.5 years, and then they immediately went in and they killed and slaughtered and razed Grozny to the ground. Basically did what they did in Mariupol to Grozny. Grozny was the model for a lot of things, and the fact that they got away with that and it really wasn't a big deal, there was no sanctions, it was just horrendous stuff. And to further drive home this point, I'll read this. Listen to the words of Jokhar Dudayev. Jokhar was later executed by the Russians in 1996. His words ring true to this day. Remember my words. Russia will disappear when the Ukrainian sun rises. This was the guy that was running Chechnya in the brief period in which they had independence after winning the war against Russia. And this guy figured it all out. Ukraine will eventually confront Russia on irreconcilable conditions, not in a peaceful way. As long as Russism exists, it will never refuse from its ambitions, meaning Russia can only invade and kill. They want to hide it under the Slav excuse, like they did before. That's the brotherly thing. Like, oh, we're brothers. And then Russia uses that to get closer before they strike. Take Ukraine, Belarus, to strengthen up, and then nobody wants to be in military alliance with Russia now, not just in military, but also in economical, political, and even in trade relations. Because they've been well studied. So everyone knows. The same as the world was fighting fascism, it's fighting fascism against Russia now. And this fight will be escalating. And it's pointless for Russians to think that they can scare the world with their army, criminals, and nuclear weapon. No, they will not. Everyone has already been scared. Everyone's already gone through, and Russians will be put back in line of human civilization. Either it will stop existing as a country, meaning Russia, or they must get in line with the world community. Russians are naked in front of the whole world right now, but they are not just externally naked. They are turned inside out to their guts. The whole world has seen Russism, who Russism and what Russism is, and how dangerous they are for humanity. They're killing civilians, exclamation point, that don't have any protection, completely unprotected. They are killing from inaccessible distance, from air and artillery, wiping everything out of existence. Then they come to that city place and start to rape and maraud. They take everything, up until dirty lingerie. Russism is scarier than fascism, Nazism, racism, scarier than all misanthropic ideologies. The only nation in the world that believes in nothing. That is spiritless, immoral, and retarded. From the humanity, evolution, and for a long time hopeless are Russians. Chechnya is only the pretext, but in fact this is the essence of the Russian nation. Nation which is sick with the Russism. Misanthropy, I missed the last word, due to uncontrolled aggression. Everything is destroyed in Chechnya. They destroyed all his whole country, starting from kindergarten, ending with university. From thimble factories to heavy machinery, it's all gone. Everything is ruined, everything is destroyed. But that's not the main issue. The main thing is that they destroyed faith in humanity. That's absolutely true for many people. Neither Russian people, especially nor their leadership, are not prepared to realize the amount of evil that they committed and are committing and are going to commit. If Russians will not come to sense, at least for their sake, to save themselves from the tragedy of war, they then need to consider that war might come to their houses, which it is now, thanks to brave Ukrainians. It will come, and Russian cities will be burning if Russians will not come to their senses. Again, if Russia will not come to their sense, their cities will burn with a blue fire intensively. They are bringing themselves to their own catastrophe with their own hands by encouraging criminality of their political leaders. Today's Russia is a Carthage that must be destroyed. Either it should become democracy ruled by a legal state, even though there's no such thing as a democracy, not even close. At least they should comply with rights and laws. Or this country must disappear from the history map. There is no middle. There's no compromise. We, myself, and all the Chechens are looking at all the evil that they are committing, at all these Russians, at all those criminals, marauders, killers. We look at them with that squeamish disgust gaze and nothing else. And many good points there. And primary, though, I think really it's that the loss in humanity comment is a very big deal because, and it's one of the main blown bridges of communication between the West and Ukrainians, is that Ukrainians have now faced an evil. Our paradigm is like this. The average American has a paradigm like this. They don't understand that what evil really is. They may have seen horror movies, but until you actually have people come into your neighborhood and do the things that Russians have been doing all over Ukraine, you can't understand that it really, really happens. And not just one like lone serial killer, always crazy. No, this is an entire society that has been basked in this petri dish. I believe it really started in 1917 by killing off the intellectual class, and really sort of glamorizing prison culture. I mean, Stalin was a bank robber, and as we saw, even the Khmer Rouge did in Cambodia. Anyone even with eyeglasses was killed. They hollowed out the countryside after murdering every doctor in the city, in every city, and it's really the same. And Pol Pot, the guy that did this to Cambodia, he went to the Sorbonne in Paris. So look. Anyway, that's my rant for today, you guys, and hope you got something out of it. And tomorrow we'll maybe have a better day. All right, you guys, have a good one.